Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this last session of moral lessons from the Quran. Today we are going to be ending this mini series which was conducted in Ramadan, especially to have our connection with the Quran revived once again. And I'd now like to share my screen with you for this last lesson that we are going to study today. These are verses from Surah Baqarah, precisely to be 262 to 265, and I'm just going to read out its text and translation first. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها الأذى والله غني حليم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين ومثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم ابتغاء مرضات الله وتثبيتا من أنفسهم كمثل جنة بربوة أصابها وابل فأتت أكلها ضعفين فإن لم يصبها وابل فطل والله بما تعملون بصير. Those who spend their wealth in the way of God and then do not follow this spending by reminders of their generosity or by hurting others have their reward with their Lord, and they shall have nothing to fear there, nor shall they ever be sorrowful. A kind word and at unpleasant instances a little forgiveness is better than charity followed by hurt. And you should know that God is self-sufficient from such charity. On such an attitude from you, he could have deprived you. However, such is he that along with this, he is also very gracious. Believers, do not waste your charity by reminders of generosity and by hurting others, like those who spend their wealth to show off before others and believe neither in God nor in the last day. So the example of such people is like a large rock covered with soil. Then a heavy shower falls upon it and leaves it hard and bare. On the day of judgment, they will gain nothing from what they earned. And in reality, God never guides such ungrateful people. The example of those who spend their wealth to win the pleasure of God and to firmly make themselves adhere to the truth is that of an orchard which is on a high and level ground. If a heavy shower falls upon it, it yields up twice its normal produce. And even if a heavy shower does not fall on it, a drizzle proves sufficient. Keep in mind this example and rest assured God is seeing whatever you do. So, dear participants, you can see that these verses which occur near the end of Surah Baqarah are urging people to spend in the way of God and to follow a certain decorum, to follow a certain conduct, because spending in the way of God and then reminding people of the generosity that you did to them is something which really hurts people. It really makes them feel as if they have been treated as inferiors, and that if they were able to, by mustering a lot of courage, they were able to ask for help from others. Not only did the other person perhaps did help him, but the way in which this help was given to him was so hurtful that it really created a lot of problems for that person, and he might have just wished that, God, why did I ever ask this person to help me? And this is especially very true that when at times we spend in the way of God, we don't realize that the person who is receiving the money, he has a self-esteem. He has an ego, which is more akin to self-respect. And this self-respect is something, if it is damaged, one can clearly see that the charity that we have done, how miserably it would fail in the eyes of God. We just need to place our own selves in the place of such people, and we'll realize how hurtful it is that one, when receives this charity, is also reminded of this favor that the other person has done upon us. So the words of the Quran, they are very bitter actually, and they are on the one hand trying to make us realize that this is not the right way. On the other hand, they also stress that people who do not do so, who do not follow this spending by expressing this favor of generosity, then they are the ones for whom God is very gracious. And for them, they have their Lord. So the Quranic words are, لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So they have nothing to fear. They are nothing to be sorrowful about. And La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, as students of the Quran, I'm sure must be very aware of this term, because this term actually describes the life of paradise. La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, no fear of the future and no regret of the past. So La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, it actually describes how contrary to this whole situation is this world, because when we're living in this world, we have a fear of the future, and we always have regrets of the past. We always think that we might have done something in a better way, and regrets keep haunting us. And at the same time, fear of the future is also something which drives many of our deeds and many of our actions, and in fact, at times influence them very badly. So the Quran has used this beautiful expression for the life of paradise at a number of instances. La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, that they will live in bliss. They will have no regrets whatsoever of the past, and of the future they will have nothing to fear about. They will always be looking forward to the future. It's not that their future would have something evil in store for them. In fact, they would find that every passing moment in the life of paradise is bringing them with new joy, with new favors, with a life of bliss that one couldn't have even imagined. And such will be the grace and magnanimity of God in this regard. So, La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. This is the reward of who? Which people are being talked about here? People, of course, here who are spending for the cause of God. They are spending for their own purification. They are spending to make themselves closer to God. They are spending so that they think that it's not a favor that they are doing to other people. In fact, God has given them this opportunity to do this favor to themselves. So when you are charitable, when we are charitable, when we spend in the way of God, it's in fact that need to be thankful of, because we have been given this opportunity. We have been afforded with this chance to do what best we can. And in fact, if anything else, it is but a favor which is done to us, let alone thinking that we are doing a favor to other people. So this has to be our attitude when we are behaving in this way, when we would like to spend in charity. And especially in this holy month of Ramadan, which is now about to end, we know from the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that he was, of course, all his life, on most occasions, in every month, his charitable behavior was exemplary. But in the month of Ramadan, we are told by his biographers and by their narratives tell us that he would be exceptionally charitable. He would look out and leap out and see wherever he could do something for other people. So his charitability was exemplary in this month of Ramadan. And we do hope, inshallah, that we are able to follow his example, and not only in this month of Ramadan, but once we are able to pass through this month as well. So the Quran, after giving us this warning, actually now tells us that what the right attitude is. It says, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى, which means that a kind word and at unpleasant instances, a little forgiveness is better than charity followed by inflicting hurt. So at times it does happen that when you are being charitable, I mean, it could be in a form that the other person might argue with you regarding the amount given, or it could be at times an unpleasant situation that would unexpectedly happen. And here people are urged that remember, God is kind to them. It is they who are the wealthy and the affluent, and they are in a position, or they have been blessed with this position to spend for the cause of God. So on such occasions, if there is a slight unpleasant situation, then God urges such people to speak with kind words, not scold the other person, and not remind him of his generosity. Because this is much better than, as the Quran says, خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. And then that those words which that really ring in our ears, Allahu Ghaniyyun Halim, which means that God is himself, he is self-sufficient from this charity. He doesn't need our charity. It's not that we are going to fill his coffers or his treasures with our money, because he is self-sufficient. If we are spending, then this is something we are doing for our own selves. He doesn't need our infaq. He doesn't need our charity at all. If anyone does need that charity, it is we ourselves, because we have been given this opportunity. And remember, if we are in a position to help others, it is just because God has given us this position, because he could have taken us away. We could have been at the receiving end easily. According to the scheme of God, he has placed us currently at the giving end instead of being at the receiving end. So this is reason enough to be thankful to him. And remember that if he is asking you to spend for his cause, it's not his personal need in any way. He is not bothered. Yes, if you do not do this, if we are not able to do this, then we are in a tight spot. We would be held accountable. We would be asked that what about the blessings that we had, which God gave us, without any one of us deserving those favors on most occasions. We inherit at times, we are blessed with windfall gains at times. At times we don't even, it's like an unimaginable bonus that we gain from businesses, which is not proportionate to the hard work that we had done. So you see, it's basically that blessing of God that we have been in that position. So therefore, God is not going to in any way be needing what we are doing. It is ourselves who are in need. And we just need to realize this, that we need this charity for our own selves. We need this. And as far as God is concerned, what best he could have done was giving us this opportunity. And this actually he has. And now the onus of spending lies on us. So it says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tubdilu sadaqakum bil manni wal aza. Again, the Almighty says that as far as this attitude is concerned, on such an attitude from you, he could have deprived you. However, such is that he, along with this, he's also very gracious, and he's obviously he is full of compassion in this regard. So therefore, do not waste your charity by reminders of generosity and by hurting others, like those who spend their wealth to show off before others. So again, another very important pitfall which is mentioned here is that if you spend your wealth by reminders of these generosity, and therefore as a result you hurt others, this is going to lay waste your wealth. Your charity, the Quran says, La tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal aza. Your charity is just going to go down the drain. It's not going to have a single ounce of weight in the scales of the Almighty, because this would mean that you are basically satisfying your own nafs, your own ego. And it is not that you're in any way willing to go and thank God for this. And therefore, the Almighty says that the example of such people is كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, which means that such people, when they do this, they are like those who spend their wealth to show off before others and believe neither in God nor in the last day. So when a person is actually reminding people of how gracious he was and how generous he was, the Almighty says this is nothing but show off. And people who indulge in such pomposity, they are the ones who neither believe in God in reality nor in the last day, because for them it's like a opportunity of self-projection. It's a time in which you can make yourself dominate in the eyes of the other person and make him realize that, well, you were the person who had done something good. And God says that such charity is not acceptable to him. It's just going to go down the drain. It's like posing before others. It's like boasting your good deeds. And if you start boasting your good deeds before others, then the whole point in doing those good deeds is totally lost. So the Quran is very explicit in this regard, and we need to note this, how important it is to, in this matter, to keep this charitable behavior as much as we can to our own selves. And then the Quran gives this beautiful example, as is often the case, that whenever there is something that Quran wants, or there is a point which the Quran wants to drive home, it gives an example. And here you once again encounter this example. فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ صَفْوَانٍ عَلَيْهِ تُرَابٌ فَأَصَابَهُ وَابِلٌ فَتَرَكَهُ صَلْدًا, which means that the example of such people is like a large rock covered with soil. Then a heavy shower falls upon it and leaves it hard and bare. So just as that soil, which covers a hard rock, and a slight amount, of shower which falls on it exposes the rock, and there's nothing which is left on it. In a very similar way, the charity of such people is just going to go waste. It has no roots in the ground. It is just a matter of time in which a shower will come and just blow it away, and we know that nothing can then grow. And such spending is very similar to that rocky surface in which nothing is going to prosper, and a slight amount of rain is just going to blow it off. And that is how the attitude of such people is going to end up before God. So, and then it says, وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالًا, and of course before that it says, لَا يَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ مِمَّا كَسَبُوا وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. They are the ones when spend, they are like people who can be compared to people who are like a large rock covered with soil, and a heavy shower falls upon it and leaves it hard and bare. On the day of judgment, they will gain nothing from what they earn. So, la yaqdiruna ala shay'in mimma kasabu. This would mean that all their endeavors, which they thought were done to accumulate righteous deeds, were actually done in vain, and they will gain nothing from what they earn. And the Quran says, "Wallahu la yahdil qawm al-kafirin." In reality, God never guides such ungrateful people. And then, of course, this, as is the case of the Quran now goes on to mention the attitude of charity, which is on the contrary adopted by the righteous. So it says, فَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ أُكُلُهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ, which means the example of those who spend their wealth to win the pleasure of God and to firmly make themselves adhere to the truth is that of an orchard which is on a high and level ground. If a heavy shower falls upon it, it yields up twice its normal produce. فَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلٌّ, and even if a heavy shower does not fall on it, a drizzle proves sufficient. So such is the charitable nature of the righteous, that a heavy drizzle will produce twofold fruit. And even if a heavy drizzle is not there and there is just a drizzle, it will still bear fruit, which would mean that if circumstances are very conducive, the produce will be outstanding. understanding. And even if the circumstances are constrained, even then they would be produced, which would mean that even then they shall be rewarded in such situations, because God does not waste the reward of righteous people, because they are the ones who did this deed, not for any show off, not for any reminder of generosity, to purely attack themselves. As the Quran says, tasbeetam min anfusihim. This is a very beautiful term. It means to connect ourselves in a way that we are like this, that we are attached to God. Tasbeetam min anfusihim. And mardatillah is the other term used to win the pleasure of God, is such that if heavy rain falls, then the orchard will produce twice the fruit. And even if the heavy rain doesn't fall and a drizzle is there, it would be quite sufficient to still have a normal and a reasonable produce, referring to the circumstances that how important and how well grounded their charity is. So this passage then ends on these words, Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. Keep this example in mind and rest assured that God is seeing whatever you do. So don't forget that this is something which the Almighty is not aware of. Whatever you spend in the way of God is absolutely in His knowledge. If you spend it in circumstances that are straightened, if you spend it in circumstances in which there's no one watching you, don't forget that yes, the all-seeing and the all-knowing knows whatever good deed you have done, and you spend as if God is watching you. And this month of Ramadan, as we draw close to this in these days, and also draw close to our mini series, is the biggest message that we have to draw from from these verses of the Quran. Wallahu basirun bima ta'malun, that God is watching us. So in the month of Ramadan, it was an experience that all of us had gone through, that this observation God was literally something that we felt, and we never broke off our fast. We never ever drank water when we were in seclusion. Although we had a chance, no one was looking, but the feeling was that God is watching us. So the takeaway from this month of Ramadan is that do remember that if God is watching you and you're not drinking or not eating and abstaining from intimate relations with your wife, in spite of the fact that there could have been none to watch you, but you did not venture forth and drink or eat or indulge in those relations because you had that immense feeling that, if no one is watching, God is watching us. So this is the most beautiful part of the Quran. That is an object lesson for us for the rest of these 11 months. Remember, it's not just in Ramadan that God is watching us. It's not just in Ramadan that when we don't drink water or eat food, then we do so with this feeling that we could have broken this had no one been watching us. No, in spite of the fact that this was something that we could have done, we never did this. This is the most powerful message that yes, in those 11 months before the advent of the next Ramadan, we would be watched by the Almighty for all that we do. And so therefore, let us remain mindful of this, that we have to conduct ourselves in a manner that every time that we stumble upon a bad deed, immediately we are reminded that no, God is watching me. Just as we are reminded whenever accidentally we pick up a glass of water in Ramadan, and we are reminded, no, I'm fasting and I'm not going to drink it. So if we are able to draw this lesson from this month of Ramadan and from these very powerful verses of the Quran on which today we are ending our mini series, I think it would be a huge achievement. And let us pray that we are able to actually reap the benefits of this month of Ramadan, and also pray to the Almighty for any blemishes that we might have done. Of course, there have to be a lot of blemishes that must have emanated from all of us. So let us pray to God that God forgive our blemishes, accept our fasting, and make us worthwhile individuals for the next 11 months, because the real test of Ramadan is not Ramadan itself, because it's a workshop. The real test of Ramadan is after Ramadan. It will show whether we have really reaped the blessings of this month or not. So I thank all of you participants who have been there in this series. I also thank specially our organizers, Najia, Ghazal, Dr. Suhail, all of you who were very vigilant and, of course, were very busy in your schedules, but you spare time to conduct these sessions. So, inshallah, we will continue with our other courses that we were already doing before Ramadan, after Eid. And with these words, I am now available for your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad, for this reminder about the privileges for such inspiring and engaging, full of wisdom sessions from the Quran. Dr. Shehzad, may Allah reward you immensely and give barakah in your knowledge. To our GA participants, thank you so much for your regular input in form of your insightful and probing questions. May we all remain motivated and God conscious to conduct ourselves as Allah would expect of us. Thank you again. Fatma, you may ask your question.
Yes, I just want to thank you for answering all my questions with such great patience and in such a beautiful manner. And after Almighty Allah, I feel very grateful to you, and I want to make this prayer for you that may Almighty Allah bless you with more in-depth knowledge of Islam, and may you keep on helping common Muslims like me in understanding Islam in a better way. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. I feel very grateful to you.
You're most welcome, and it was a pleasure for me and a personal honor as well.
Shehzad, we have a written question about Shab-e-Qadr because they were listening to a traditional lecture on radio, and it was said that a person shouldn't sleep even a while during this night as it is haram. So what is your point of view on this?
I mean, you see, whenever a person gives a verdict or an opinion, it has to be based on the sources of religion. So I would like to, know if that worthy sermonizer presented any verse of the Quran or any hadith of the Prophet, because to my limited knowledge, as far as I have read, there is not a single verse to my knowledge in the Quran or of the hadith which says that you have to remain awake all night. In fact, on the other hand, what I know from hadith literature is that there is not a single night which we can think in which the Prophet remained awake all night. So the word tahajjud itself means to rise after sleeping, to break your sleep. And this is what he used to do. He would sleep and then he would break up his sleep. Yes, in these odd nights, he would get up earlier than his normal tahajjud. This is something very understandable. But to my knowledge, this was his uswa, this was his example, that sleeping and then getting up is something that is the word tahajjud itself qualifies and signifies. This trend of remaining awake all night, not only in the nights which are odd nights, but now, as we know, that there was another thing which is now going to happen, which is called the Shabina, in which the Quran is finished in 3 days. That's another thing which never happened ever. And I think that if people would like to do it, it's up to them. But then they should not say that this is a haram act or a halal act, because for this you have to find an argument from the Quran. Never ever the Quran does say that in such nights sleeping is forbidden. In fact, when people say this, they really cause a lot of difficulties and hardships for the common believers. And obviously, no one has the capacity to wake up all night. And after a few hours of worship, people feel so tired. And if they ever fall to sleep, they feel guilty because they think that they shouldn't have slept. And this makes them even worse. I mean, this is a very awful feeling that you were perhaps falling short. So all that I can say is that we have to base our understanding of the Quran in any matter it has to be a Quranic verse or an authentic practice of the Prophet.
Thank you. Rafia Khwaja, you can ask a question.
Dr. Shehzad, first of all, thank you very, very much for answering all my questions. Sometimes I felt that I just overdid it with you, but you are very patient and kind. My question is that I've been listening to the Insight Surah Fatiha, and my conclusion was that Surah Fatiha is like the cream of the Quran. And the more I understood it, what would you agree with me that when you read Surah Fatiha, you understand what the rest of the Quran is all about? Because Surah Fatiha just explains a lot.
I think I would rather put it in another way, and that is Surah Fatiha is basically a supplication for guidance. It was a supplication that is the voice of a heart, the Prophet's heart, in which when he was growing up in the land of Arabia, and when he was called upon to become a prophet of God, he was standing on the crossroads in which the two previous nations who were recipients of guidance, the Jews and the Christians, which are collectively called the people of the book, they had lost their guidance. One of them had gone astray and earned the wrath of God, and the other one had become deviant in their practices, which are called the Zaleen by the Quran. And so the Prophet prayed that at this juncture he would be given guidance. So the rest of the Quran is actually an answer to this supplication. So the Quran is based. The rest of the Quran is an answer to the supplication of Surah Fatiha. So in Surah Fatiha, you put up your hands and you ask God to Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. And what is that Sirat al-Mustaqim? What is that straight path? So from Surah Baqarah, which is the next surah, right to the last surah, which is Surah Nas, the Almighty has answered this supplication by telling the Prophet, well, this is the complete guidance. This is the Sirat al-Mustaqim that this first surah was mentioning, and which, as a person, you had asked, and this is my response to your supplication. So I would say the relationship of Surah Fatiha with the rest of the Quran is that of a dua or a supplication, and its response to the Almighty.
Dr. Sal, would you agree that this Surah Fatiha applies to the whole of humanity, regardless of what religion you belong to, but the message is for the whole of humanity?
It is. Also not only Surah Fatiha, I say the Quran itself is for the whole of humanity. It is very unfortunate that we Muslims think that the Quran is for Muslims. This is a misconception. This is something which we have to come out for. The message of the Quran is for entire humanity. Yes, what you can say is that the followers of the Prophet were the bearers of this message, or they were the ones who were given the responsibility of delivering this message. But as far as the message of the Quran is concerned, and the Quran's direction is concerned, it is for humanity. We have made it a book of Muslims. So we need to revise this attitude and revisit this attitude. God has not compartmentalized and divided humanity, that he is sending this guidance just to Muslims. He is sending this guidance for all mankind.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ustad. There is a question about the nature of Eid prayers, whether they are fard or nafil. Could it be offered at home by a person? If he wants to offer the salah at home, how many rakas should be offered? And should it be offered by a person who has kept all the fast, or the one who couldn't fast to also offer the prayer?
So Eid prayer is incumbent on everyone, whether he is fasted or not. And just as the Jummah prayer cannot be offered at home, it is a congregational prayer that has to be offered in public. And the practice of Prophet was that he himself would lead this prayer, and his representatives as well. And the Sunnah, which was established after him, was that the rulers of the Muslim would be leading this prayer, and their representatives would be leading them in their respective territories and their provinces. So basically, it's a prayer like the Friday prayer that has to be offered by every single person in the mosque or wherever the congregation is, and it cannot be held. I mean, it's not something that has to be offered at home. Yes, in the past 2 years, when there were those circumstances in which we were passing through COVID, or exceptional situations in which going to the mosque was very, very dangerous. So there were exceptions that were created, but not in these circumstances. So like the Friday prayer, the Eid prayer is also incumbent on everyone. And like the Friday prayer, if a person doesn't pray the rest of the 5 prayers, he just cannot say that, well, why should I even pray the Friday prayer? Similarly, if a person is not fasted a limited number of days, it's not that he would say that, well, if I have not fasted, why should I pray Eid? So Eid and Friday prayers, they have the same status. They are to be conducted by our rulers. Today, unfortunately, of course, this is not the case, except in very few countries. But in Pakistan or in some of the other Muslim countries like Turkey, etc., yes, it is carried out in spirit by the scholars, and you have to go to the Eidgah or the place of Eid and offer it.
Okay, so now Dania, you could have your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shehzad. First of all, thanks a lot for such a great and insightful initiative. I mean, giving your valuable time to anyone is the most precious thing, I believe. So my question is with respect to today's session, and I have two questions in my mind, and those questions are with respect to the show-off behavior. What guidelines are available for showing a behavior when we work in a charitable organization? I have a very close friend of mine, and wherever she goes, she tend to project that they used to work a lot for the indigent people and the deserving people, and they tend to show this, that they have a lot of working for these people. And upon my मैंने एक दफा पूछ लिया उससे, and then कि वो ऐसा क्यों कर रही है, मुझे बुरा लग रहा था कि वो, if she is trying to help the people, then why she's projecting कि वो बहुत help कर रही है. तो इसमें उसने मुझे आंसर किया कि वो ये इसलिए कर रही है क्योंकि वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा funds raise कर सके. So मेरा question ये है कि what guidelines are there for such behavior? दूसरा मेरा क्वेश्चन है with respect to the achievements. I mean, Pakistani society, whensoever we have some personal achievements, हम फौरन से उसको social media पे दे देते हैं. Even कि whensoever we are trying to help someone, then also वो भी हम उसको WhatsApp पे या बाकी जगहों पे Insta पे status पे दे देते हैं. तो ये कितना mature या sensible behavior है with respect to our culture and with respect to the guidelines of Islamic teachings? That's all. Thank you.
In the first instance, the first part that you asked, this at times becomes a essential introduction of the person in order to generate funds. And if the intention is not to show off, if you're going to, for example, a chief executive of an organization or some affluent person, and you introduce your organization by telling them that, well, these are the projects that we have done, this is how we are funding people who are in need, and this is the amount that we have spent. I don't see any harm in it, because you're actually trying to make that person realize that you have a certain credibility in the society, and the money that is being collected would be going for these causes. So basically, this is a form of fundraising, and that fundraising is not in any way any personal show-off. It is more to convince the other person and introduce him to your own work, of the nature of work that you're doing, the various projects that you might be doing. So I think unless there are more details to it, it's just a question of introducing your work, I see no harm in it. Yes, in the other, in the second question that you have asked, that as soon as you do some good deeds, you start displaying it on social media with pictures and everything else. That does seem, questionable, and I would not go for it. I would say that although the Quran has said on one occasion, "Allazina yunfiquna amwalahum bil-layli wan-nahar sirran wa alaniya." So the words are who spend at all times of the day, hidden and openly. Sirran is to do your spending while no one knows it, and alaniya means in public. So it is not that it's always wrong to publicly let other people know, because as I said, there are instances in which it becomes a means of encouragement, particularly maybe for the younger generation, to teach your own children, to inspire other people. So it is a very fine line in it. And otherwise the Quran would never have said sirran wa alaniya. Alaniya means publicly, means openly. So my understanding of publicly and openly is when the purpose is to inspire or to teach younger children or other people that they should come forward, then this could be one thing. But then self-projection is something which should be avoided, because you see, as I said, there's a thin line. you know where you are projecting yourself, and you know where you are trying to inspire other people. So this is it's a very double-edged sword. And I mean, a person's conscience is the best judge in this regard. And I would leave it to that a person should, the intention should not be to show off if it has to be on the social media. The intention should be that people are inspired, and instead of the person himself or herself, whatever has been done, maybe if that is projected by maybe omitting the name, or giving it a fictitious name even, uh, at times that is also possible, because you don't mention the name, or you mention a fictitious name. And whatever is done, for example, if you're donating for a school, or for a well, or for various other welfare projects like a hospital, etc., then whatever is being done, like for example, if the machine is being donated, or if the fee is being donated, so instead of the person who is donating it, the thing which is being donated is maybe highlighted on social media, then maybe this could be a reasonably good way, or okay, I would say, and could not be construed as being a show off.
Thank you. I believe that must have answered the question. Adil Qureshi, you may go now.
GCIL, Dr.
Walaikum assalam.
Dr. Obviously, first things first, we are probably going to close the series of sessions that we've had. It was a privilege. It was really absolutely amazing to hear your thoughts. And I would like to commend you and appreciate yourself, as well as the moderators, Naji and Dr. Suhail, in patiently arranging these sessions, and also helping us bring closer to Allah. And I also pray, as a result of this, you yourself and the moderators also get rewarded by Allah in the here as well as in the hereafter.
Thank you very much.
So, sir, I had one sort of similar question to what was asked earlier. There is this trend of doing television fundraisers where celebrities are there. So you have to publicly make a phone call. You have to announce your name, who you are, where are you from, and then you have to donate. What is your view of because in this ayah looks like it's discouraged to essentially make a propaganda of what you're donating in Allah's path. So are these shows or these fundraisers, and what is your view of people trying to call in and trying to donate there?
As I said, again, it's a difficult call to make, because at times when you are doing this fundraising for a cause, for a very big cause, when you say a particular amount, other people who are more wealthier or more maybe in a position to spend, they might get inspired and increase the amount of donation. So I think if I'm given the choice, I may just not mention my name. I would just say Abdullah. Abdullah means God's servant, and every one of us is Abdullah. So maybe anonymity in the name, and if the amount has to be mentioned, then the anonymity of the name at least doesn't make you. I mean, doesn't make you in the front line of people, because people know you by their original name. If your original name is I mean, if you use a pseudonym to put it in another way, I think this might lessen that part in which all of us would feel very awkward if our name is announced. So this is the suggestion that comes to my mind.
Right, sir. And just one associated question to this. I've been through this situation a few times, and I'm sure others would have been there as well. For instance, when somebody is trying to some kind of an issue or some kind of a charitable cause is explained to them, usually that charitable cause, for instance, if it is for children or if it is for people who are underprivileged or somehow they're being they're under some kind of a calamity, usually you tend to your first motivation of donating to that cause really is the compassion or the mercy that essentially comes out of your heart. To be honest, the fact that Allah has asked us to do that, or I'm doing this for Allah, sometimes it's not really the first thought that comes to your mind. It is the second thought or the third thought. So first, you're just basically just donating because you have this sort of mercy and compassion for the other person. Now, if somebody does that out of this intent, does this also get rewarded by Allah just because he's a Muslim, or is this just something that he did out of his own mercy? I mean, he might expect some certain rewards, but my challenge with this is that his niyat was not really to please Allah. His niyat was to, out of just pure compassion that naturally it has been given. He's doing it out of that. So, what's your thought on this?
I think that you see, whenever you're doing something out of mercy and compassion, you're just skipping one step, and you're not consciously aware of that step. And when you consciously make yourself aware, you immediately realize that the mercy and compassion is because God has placed that mercy and compassion in you, and you are using that same mercy and compassion which God gifted you for His cause. So you're always not conscious of these details, but they are in your mind. So at times, if they skip you and you do it out of your mercy and compassion, it's like a human being at times not being consciously aware of how this feeling came into me and how am I being driven by this feeling, and the purpose of this feeling is actually to please God. So I think at the back of your mind and in your subconscious, this is always there, or in most cases, I would say it is there. So obviously, the first thing which makes you do something for the other person is the misery that you see. I mean, this is a human, we are all humans. And when we see people in miserable conditions, our first instance is to remove that misery. But remember, all these things which I just described, they are found in your mind. And when you're doing them, you're not consciously actually, I mean, always logically following those steps that, well, this mercy that I'm now being, that is now being expressed by myself and by myself and making my own self stimulant or stimulated to go into this act of generosity is actually from God, and I'm basically doing it to please God. These are things that I would say in most occasions are understood and found in your own self. And it's just that on that particular occasion, the first cause or the apparent misery is this thing that makes you take that first step.
Thank you. Last but not the least, we have the last remark, I guess, from our moderator, Dr. Suhail. Suhail, you may go ahead.
Dr. Saleem, Assalamu alaikum. I don't have a question, just a comment. Just reiterating what everybody else said. We expressed our deepest gratitude from the bottom of our heart to you for dedicating your time to us. One doesn't always realize these talks take a lot of preparation. You dedicate your time; they're entirely free of charge. And so a big thank you to you and to Najia, our co-moderator, who's done a wonderful job, because the time of iftar in Saudi Arabia is very close to your talk. So she has done a lot of sacrifice and dedication to conduct these topics and talks. So and thank you very much to all the participants, and I've learned a lot from their questions. I just want to add one thing, that the world is moving at a frighteningly fast pace, and basically our standards of living has improved a lot as compared to antiquity or medieval times. Healthcare, economics, clean water, infection control is improved a lot. The minorities that were oppressed in the past are not oppressed anymore. They have their voice, they have a vision, they can say what they want to say. And in this, and I mean, the physical health of people have improved. I was amazed to hear the other day that now they can operate on the heart of the baby who is in a mother's womb. So if you have a septal defect in your heart, and if it is diagnosed at an antenatal check, there are certain procedures that can be done in the fetus while the fetus is still in the mother's womb. So this is technology and it's advancing very fast. And in this fast-paced world, if we have to hang on to our religion, we have to keep our religion simple. And the biggest service I can see, the Farai school of thought, Ghamidi Saab, people like you who are simplifying the religion, they're deciphering it, they're making it accessible to the common person in a layman terminology where it's easier for people like us to retain the knowledge and to go with the rituals that are made simplified and easier. So I thank you for that. and I thank you, the Farai School, for that.
So thank you very much, Dr. Suhail, for your kind words. In fact, as I said, it's my pleasure, and I feel that I have been blessed by the Almighty and by being provided with this opportunity to make myself available to you. And I'm so glad that I have been able to service. And I do hope that God gives me the commitment and the time and the devotion and whatever is needed to go on till the last breath of my life. So inshallah, we'll see each other on now let me see, it will be the 8th of May when we will have our next session, which would be obviously announced. And until then, we have that Eid break and also a general break for you to recoup. And don't forget, which I think said at the end of my earlier talk, that our real test of Ramadan begins once we end Ramadan. And let's hope that we are able to pass this test and able to remember what Ramadan has taught us the rest of the year. So thank you very much, and inshallah we'll see each other
Thank you.
on Sunday, the 8th of May.